So we're going to be presenting the civil society theory, and this is going to be presented by Sydney, Leah, Crystal, Adelaide, Licia, Rebecca, and Jessica. So the table of contents is going to start with the background where we introduce what it is and how it came about. Then we're going to get into the core concepts of this theory. Then we're going to move on to understanding the problem, why it is important to discuss this, and then we're going to apply it to the population that we're addressing in our community project of sexual assault survivors.
So, the history of civil society. As the anti-globalization movement grew and many nations made the transition to democracy, civil society was increasingly considered as a way to defend democracy and its legitimacy towards the end of the 1990s. In the 1990s, as non-governmental organizations and contemporary social movements spread around the globe, civil society as a distinct third sector came to be viewed more as a tool for constructing a new social order.
So more about what exactly civil society theory is. In order to advance a variety of social objectives, civil society is made up of official and informal groups and organizations that act independently of the government and the market. It exemplifies self-generating, self-supporting, state-independent organizations that enable citizens to get together and act publicly to advance their objectives. These concepts could have an impact of the revival of community organizations and other types of civic participation and democracy itself. It is linked to a group of organizations that serve as a bridge between the person and the state. Robert Putnam criticizes the individualistic society that isolates us and instead affirms that people, particularly oppressed people, have a right to express their opinions, object to, and stop actions that will have an impact on their lives. He also claims that this right enables people to take their struggles to the people in positions of power that want to oppress them. Robert Putnam, in his book, Bowling Alone, America's Declining Social Capital, states that social capital is based on the foundation of thin trust rather than thick trust within societies. Thick trust makes a community rigid in terms of its composition. An individual may not transcend its boundary to co-opt with other communities in a thick trust-oriented community.
Now we are going to play a short video summarizing the points that we just spoke on.
Civil society setting. The context of civil society is generally charities or nonprofit and issue-based centers or organizations such as for abused women, abandoned children, elderly, veterans, teachers, professionals, or religious groups. Civil society is simply many groups of people working together toward a positive outcome for the entire community. Civil society is the ecosystem that influences social change outside of the family, market, or government. Often referred to as the space where we act for the common good, civil society aims to connect poor or marginalized people with groups that can mobilize support to help. Civil society comprises organizations that are not associated with government, including schools and universities, advocacy groups, professional associations, churches, and cultural institutions. Business sometimes is covered by the term civil society and sometimes not. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the core concepts. So civic engagement includes working to make a difference in the civic lives of one's community and developing the combination of knowledge, skills, values, and motivation to make that difference. As well as volunteering, participating in group activities and community gardening. According to Piles, he talked about in other cases, such as in the Farm Workers Association of Florida, youth organizing in immigrant communities plays a significant role in getting adults involved in civic participation activities and community actions. Social capital, the term social capital is to conceptualize the connections that exist among individuals in the trust and reciprocate that arise from these connections. The social networks, like other forms of capital, have value in society. Social capital is beneficial to the individuals who are part of these networks, as well as to the larger society as a whole. Putnam and others have researched a variety of aspects of social capital, including political participation, civil participation, religious participation, connections in the workforce, informal social volunteering, and more. High amounts of social capital tend to result in better outcomes in education, child's welfare, safe and productive neighborhoods, economic prosperity, health and happiness, participatory democracy, intolerance, also building a community, including a global community, and enhancing social networks are essential elements of civil society perspectives.
So to talk about a little more about participatory democracy, according to civil society, a strong civil society needs a healthy functioning state to accomplish goals and provide a stable political context. What makes democracy work is a citizen engagement in civil society, where civil society is public space separate from the state, the market, and the family, through to be sure these spheres are not always discrete. According to Pyle's efforts to promote participatory democracy rather than just a representative democracy have the potential to engender an active civil society, a socially just economy, and a democracy that serves to channel the interests of the people. This perspective emphasizes the people, especially oppressed people, have a right to criticize, oppose, and prevent the implementation of decisions that affect their lives, arguing that the right permits people to cross borders to carry their struggles to the sources of power that seek to oppress them. A few elements of civil society are characterized by participation and doing. Central features of activity are spontaneous, I can't even pronounce this word. Spontaneity. How do you pronounce it?
Spontaneity.
Spontaneity, something like that. Spontaneity and activeness, anatomy and volunteering. To touch up on interpersonal trust, interpersonal trust promotes cooperation by reducing individuals' fear of being exploited by others. In other words, individuals are more likely to respect social rules when they think others will respect them.
Why support is important. Sexual assault is stigmatized in the US, and due to societal isolation, survivors struggle to reach out for social support. This stigma is even worse for male survivors due to societal beliefs around masculinity. Along with the stigma surrounding sexual assault, survivors also have limited access to mental health services, which leads to some individuals not coming forward until they have been victimized multiple times. Survivors also face victim blaming, which decreases the needed support for opening up to others. If society provided the needed support for sexual assault survivors, then those who experience sexual violence may feel more comfortable coming forward, which in turn may lower sexually violent acts from occurring due to catching repeat offenders.
So part of understanding civil society's theory in regard to sexual assaults is the idea of support networking. The theory brings forward the notion that a society functions best when individuals have a vast support network or people and organizations that they can lean on and receive help from. Because the United States is such an individualistic society, people who have experienced sexual assaults many times feel isolated with little in terms of a support system. Applying civil society's theory to this population will increase the support networks of survivors of sexual assault and therefore assist them on their journey past the trauma.
So within addressing this individualistic society, we'll go to the next side. So we're going to apply it to the population, how a collectivist society can help with the civil society theory and sexual assault survivors. So as addressed before, a lot of sexual assault survivors feel isolated due to the society that we live in. So in the 1830s, Black women were excluded from rape laws, and grassroots advocacy played a pivotal role in creating services to address the needs of these victims, expanding legal protections and reforming rape laws to eliminate outdated assumptions about the characteristics of people who rape and those who experience it, according to Zweig et al. So by people following the core concepts of collectivism from this theory and reaching out to help survivors and create change legally, crisis centers were created, and there was formed an alliance among feminist groups, victims' rights organizations, and law enforcement organizations, leading to changes in federal and state laws that expanded the definition of rape and changed trial practices. And all of this led to the passing of the VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act of 1998, which was reauthorized recently through 2027. And this protects, so all of these things protect sexual assault survivors. So through this collectivist perspective and advocating legally on a collectivist level, it helps us to ensure that this isolation is not felt. So, also according to civil society theory, it is up to us to keep fighting for the community support on a legislative level, but also on a personal level. And that's where we reach how the collectivist aspect in the civil society theory can help us in our project and with our population. So, within colleges and sexual assault survivors in our communities, people with social support are less likely to feel lonely, which in turn are more resilient. So, the more social support we offer up to sexual assault survivors, the less lonely they feel and the more resilience they have. So this is why a sense of community on top of legal support is important to helping survivors. Specifically on a college campus, like where we're implementing our organizing, this would look like spreading news of resources and organizing as according to research done by Franklin et al. College students are generally ill-informed in terms of where to get information about sexual assault, and they generally lack familiarity with both campus and community resources for sexual assault survivors. So it supports the civil society theory's focus on how a collectivist society is needed for advocacy as opposed to an individualistic one, as it supports that with the collectivist society, there's more sharing of resources and a sense of community that will make sexual assault survivors feel more supported.
All right, that was the end of our presentation. We hope you learned a little bit more about civil society theories and how we can use that towards our project.